did Mayor Lightfoot break the law? And for those that may not know, can you just kind of give a little background? And then as an attorney, I'm not asking for a legal question, but you certainly understand the different dynamics of this. But for our listeners, the situation, and then did she break the law?
Mark, it's a fascinating situation. Mayor Lightfoot's campaign this broke on Wednesday evening last week. WTTW broke it. It's a really fascinating story, but her campaign sent an email, and what broke on Wednesday night is the email went to every CPS, Chicago Public School teacher, to their official city email address. But I now understand it's actually a broader scope than that. It went to the city colleges. It went to all sorts of employees of the city of Chicago who are involved with academics. But the email that I've seen, it went to CPS teachers, and it was encouraging the teachers to essentially sign up students to door knock and to get involved in her campaign in exchange for class credit.
Ooh.
And, the question is, did she break the law? Well, it's a really fascinating situation because under the standard of the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Chicago, the office that she worked at, she was an employee from 1996 to 2002, and during that time, she was, beginning investigating Rod Blagojevich and others who the U.S. Attorney's Office ultimately pursued, and the standard that office has set is that, if you're a politician, if you're holding public office, and you receive a personal benefit, that's called bribery. That's a standard that it's United States versus Giles. It's a Seventh Circuit case. Seventh Circuit is the Court of Appeals here in Chicago that we sit in. But that's just bribery. And what the U.S. Attorney's Office did is it says if you hold public office and you receive a political benefit, that is a personal benefit. That is bribery.
So political and personal benefits are all wrapped into one.
They conflate the two. So Lori Lightfoot, having her campaign solicit city employees, CPS teachers, to sign up students to be volunteers, to take them out of the class, and we know that's where they need to be. They need to be learning their reading, their writing, their arithmetic. The schools have never been in worse shape, but pulling those students out of the classroom, putting them in their precincts to go door knock in exchange for class credit, and that's illegal.
It's shocking. So, using the standard, for example, that they used to put Blagojevich in prison,
it's that standard.
If they applied that exact same standard to Lightfoot, then she's in big trouble.
If they're consistent, yes.
If they're consistent. And I think that's a key, Scott, is if they're consistent, because you can't just pick and choose. The U.S. Attorney's Office and of Northern District here in Chicago, you can't just pick and choose where this standard applies and where it doesn't apply as it relates to a public official.
No, you shouldn't. And Lori Lightfoot, of all the people she knows, she worked in this office. She helped develop that body of law.
Scott, what I think was interesting, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, they issued like 3 statements in a matter of just a couple of hours when WTTW News broke that. For those of you listening that don't have to be in media, it's crystal clear. You don't have to have a media background or an expertise to realize that a dumpster fire, that they're in total chaos mode.
Total chaos mode. And the last statement is probably the funniest because it sounds like Lightfoot herself wrote it. It ends with the word period with period. And how many press conferences has she had where they ask her questions and she gets angry and she says, this did not happen, period. So it most likely was a frustrated Lori Lightfoot who put out that last statement.
Do you have that quote in front of you? Because I think it'd be funny to read that. Because I think if others hear this, let's hear it.
It's all campaign staff have been reminded about the solid wall that must exist between campaign and official activities, and that contacts with any city of Chicago or other sister agency employees, including CPS employees, even through publicly available sources, is off limits, period.
It does sound like her, doesn't it? And this was the third statement issued.
Third one.
This wasn't the first one. This is the third statement issued in less than 2 hours of WTTW News breaking this story. And you're right. They followed up with this breaking story with another breaking news story, which said that it's bigger than CPS. This has also included teachers at the city colleges of Illinois that also received these messages. That's really interesting that the same standard that helped put Rod Blagojevich
And
in
others.
prison, and others, several others, that same standard, if applied to Lori Lightfoot, means she's in real trouble. Time will tell, Scott, if they will apply that same standard. But